It's extremely rare that I will pre-order an album, not knowing if I'll actually enjoy the end product, but I had a lot of faith in this album being one of my most anticipated records of the year, and I did make an exception for a very obvious reason. Taking a look at the record itself, this is Submarine by the Marías, which I've been a fan of theirs for a little while. I really enjoy their dream pop style and their Spanish influences in particular, especially from vocalist María Zardoya herself. And with this album, I've actually only listened to a handful of the tracks so far. Some of them actually leaked online a very long time ago, and I'm glad to see some of those get an official release, and then a couple of the tracks were actually released slightly early with music videos. So it's good to see that everything has thankfully come together. With this album, I pre-ordered it all the way back in February, and now having it in hand, it's now June 2024, so it's been a little while, and I bought this directly from the Marías website. For those who did pre-order, there's an extra flexi disc included which has an unreleased track on there, but most importantly, for me at the very least, I love getting signed records, and having this signed by the entire band is absolutely phenomenal. That was buyer incentive enough, something I was very excited about, and there were a couple more variants available that you could pre-order. One of the weirdest ones was a water cover vinyl where the front cover literally had water inside of it. Kinda cool, but what made it really weird in my opinion was a post I think the band actually took down eventually, saying it was full of Maria's bathwater.
Giggity.
I mean, whatever you're into, I suppose. No doubt the pre-orders jumped at that thought, but there you go. Anyway, with the record itself, if memory serves, I believe originally it was going to include a signed print with every order, but that changed when fans asked if the actual record sleeve could be signed. Personally, I don't really mind either way. I think a print would have maybe been better to have something smaller to frame on the wall. I'm still kind of debating as to whether or not I want to frame the record itself. We'll see. I try to avoid framing records where possible. Here is Submarine out of the shrink wrap. The signatures there, of course, are the standout thing for this album variant, and mainly the reason why I picked this up if I'm being completely honest, and I believe, again, the only way you could get the album signed was to pre-order this through the Marías website. But it's great to see the album cover in its entirety without being obscured by plastic or stickers, etc. And I will say the coloration that they have chosen is stunning, but the image of María, who is very much an icon for the Marías band, is not my favourite. I did see a couple of messages online when this was revealed as the front cover artwork, with people basically saying, is that really it? And I feel there were definitely more dynamic poses to choose from. Even having an image like this featured on the back cover of the entire band would have been preferred. And I think, funnily enough, a album cover variant was released later on with the entire band featured. So it is good to know that the Marías are willing to listen to their fans and maybe not take any form of criticism personally. There's your track list across the bottom, which there are 14 in total. Most of these I've sadly not listened to as of yet, but a couple of tracks were released slightly early, so I have familiarised myself with those, such as Run Your Mouth, which was released with its own music video, a very catchy tune, and I really loved the editing style for that video. We also have Lejos de Ti, a Spanish track, which I believe translates to Away From You, and that one hasn't quite got me yet. I think it is one that I will maybe warm to eventually, and it's ironic saying warm to, because this was another early release with a music video where María is lying completely naked in the snow, so several reasons to check out that video. I did mention briefly before there were a couple of tracks that did actually leak prior to the album's conception, the first of which being Love You Anyway, which was alright. I'll be honest, not a favourite of mine at all, it's just okay. No one noticed, however, that one I really did like. So far out of the tracks that I am familiar with, that one is my personal favourite overall. Very heartfelt lyrics and feels maybe more reminiscent of their earlier work from the Superclean album. And another early release which did eventually get a music video, that is If Only, which is a very slow and melancholic tune. To be honest, not usually the sort of thing that I would listen to, but after a few listens, I felt it really showed off the vocal talents of María herself, and it gave off a more calming kind of presence, even with the solemn connotations, compared to the usual kind of upbeat stuff from the Marías. Here's a look at the inside there with the gatefold artwork spread across both sides. Overall, again, great usage of the colour blue themed for this particular album. An extra inclusion that I do very much appreciate, this is the flexi disc for the track Behind My Eyes, an extra track that wasn't included on the album. Maybe later down the line if there's an expanded edition of Submarine we'll get this on an official release. But otherwise, this is a flexi disc, and if you don't know what one of those is, it's basically a super thin vinyl sheet that plays similar to an actual record, but the only downside is that they aren't very reliable in terms of sound quality, and that's literally because of how thin they are. If you're looking to play one of these, I would recommend reinforcing it with another record where possible. It just stops it slipping off your player, which can also be a problem, but still, for an extra inclusion and an extra song, it's definitely something that I do appreciate having, and the track itself overall was very good in my opinion. There's a credit sheet included listing all the individual song credits for all 14 tracks that are on the album, and the actual record itself, as it was described beforehand, as an ultra clear variation, so here it is as described. Overall, looking forward to listening to this album in its entirety. There are a couple of other colour variations available for this album as well, for those that maybe prefer to have something more colourful compared to this. And speaking of, let's delve into the previous records for the Marías and talk about the band a little bit more. Superclean is the first release I picked up from the Marías and is arguably their most well-known project. Sadly, this wasn't released as an album, however, but instead as a two-part EP released in 2017 and 2018, and that is split across 2 volumes where there are 12 tracks in total, roughly about 40 minutes worth of music between the 2 volumes. And I would say that Volume 1 is my personal favourite. This includes the first track that got me hooked on the Marías, being I Don't Know You, and I really like the Spanish influences from Basta Ya, a short tune that I've always gravitated towards. And then with Volume 2, this one also has a few personal favourite tracks. Sticking with the Spanish theme, Cariño is a fantastic piece that really does get stuck in your head, and I do quite like the accompanying music video for that one. ABQ is a very slow piece which also has a beautifully filmed music video, but in comparison to others, that one is pretty nonsensical. And another track I really like is Loverboy, which was kind of a brief interlude track, once again showing off the vocal talents of Maria Zardoya. So there's lots to appreciate from this collection, and I would honestly say there isn't a single bad track on this one, or one that I would skip over at least. Next up we have Cinema, their debut album released back in 2021, and this is the website exclusive record set, which is supplied in a gatefold sleeve, and the record itself is a milky white colour. The standard release was just a generic black record, but I do prefer collecting colour variants where possible, and generally speaking, for me this album is just okay. But not many of the tracks really have captured me the way most of Superclean did, which is unfortunate. Who knows, maybe over time I will grow to appreciate this album a lot more. But standout tracks for me personally, I really like Hush, especially when paired with the music video. I love the artistic flair from the video presentation and the very memorable camera shots intertwined with the song itself. And the last track on the album is one of my favourites overall from this band, being Talk to Her, and it's a very melancholic and poetic piece with Maria narrating the opening few minutes, only for it to hit with very heavy instruments towards the end, giving this album a very conclusive feel. Finally, we have a 12-inch single release of Hush, which was more of an impulse buy if I'm being completely honest, but it includes the original album rendition of the track and a remixed version known as the Still Woozy rendition, which is okay for what it is. I still do prefer the original, but I love the artwork on this sleeve, sticking with the theme of swans from the Cinema record. Plus, the actual record itself has this beautiful blue coloration, which may have been hinting at what was yet to come in the near future with Submarine, perhaps? Who knows? Anyway, that's going to do it for my unboxing on the latest album by the Marías, Submarine, along with taking a look at my collection of their stuff. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave me a like, comment below if you're a fan of this band and do you have a favourite track by them perhaps. And for more content, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?